Welcome to you and welcome to the journalists here in the room. Also welcome to the journalist who has joined us this morning on Zoom. We're very glad you could find time to come here to the press center so quickly after your election. As you all know, Naaja has been elected for Folketinget, but before that you've had a long career in Greenlandic politics, and recently before Folketinget you were a minister in the Greenlandic government.
But as I mentioned, I just transitioned from a position in the Greenlandic government where I held, amongst other things, industry and natural resources, energy and so on, gender equality. And I was asked a lot during the election, why did I want to transition to a seat in the Danish parliament? I think when you're a minister, you sort of have it all. But there's a very specific reason for that, why I thought it was just the right time and moment to try to run for election for the Danish Folketing. Because the world is changing, as you all know, the geopolitical tectonic plates are shifting, and they have shifted already. And Greenland is deeply affected by that. We see it every day. We see it in our parliament, in our government. We see it in the relation to Denmark, to the kingdom. We see it further on to the collaborations with the European Union and so on. So we can see the world is changing, and I really wanted to be in a position where I could work deeper on this relationship concerning the Kingdom of Denmark. Because I think there's a lot to be done in that relation, and that's why I think right now it's the most exciting place to be as a Greenlander. I will just say a bit about the relationship Greenland-Denmark, and then I'll just touch upon a few topics on what I want to work on more specifically. But if you look at the Greenlandic-Danish relationship, it is under pressure. And I think right now is a time to figure out how do we navigate towards the future. Should we stay together? Should we elaborate on the relationship? Should we just continue as right now? I think the last couple of governments in Greenland have clearly stated that status quo is not an option. We want change from a Greenlandic perspective. We want change on different levels. We want to look backwards. We want to look to the recent past and see what our shared history has brought about, both good and bad things. We want to look at the current situation, what is going on right now, how can we better this relationship. We also want to look towards the future. What do we want from the future relationship? And one of the things I have particularly taken interest in is, of course, the Self-Government Act that has been in place since 2009. I think it's, on many levels, a very good act. I mean, we did get, with this act, the right to the underground, which was very important for Greenland. But there's also things that I think needs a review. I think we need another new version of it. So that would be a short-term goal. Of course, it's not up to a parliamentarian to decide this, is up for the Greenlandic government, but I want to facilitate that discussion as well from Denmark. Then there's a Danish constitution, which the Greenlandic people never voted on. It was altered in 1953 in order to change our status from a colony to a part of Denmark. So the people of Greenland never voted on that. And I think there are elements that really make it difficult to obtain real equality under the constitution between Denmark, Greenland and the Faroe Islands. Of course, there are parties, there are movements in Greenland that want to entirely leave the kingdom and become independent. But a vast majority of Greenlanders want to stay in the kingdom but wants change. And I think if you want to stay and you want change, you need to look at the framework in order to make it not only attractive to stay in the kingdom, but also to make it a real collaboration between three equal countries, where every partner is recognized on the same level. So I think we need changes to the constitution as well. That is not easy, I recognize this, but in order to get that, I think I need to be on ground. I need to be in Denmark and start lobbying, if you will, talk to everybody I can about the importance of trying to take different discussions, to take difficult decisions in order to safeguard the kingdom for the future. So that is one of my very big ambitions, but also a very difficult one, and I'm not sure I will succeed on it, but I think now is the time to try. If you want constitutional change, I think now is the time, as the rest of the world is moving quite quickly. So I have a couple of course, my main focus as a parliamentarian would be to look and to have an overview over the parts that Denmark is still responsible for in Greenland. Defense, of course, there's a lot going on in that area. I think the days of low tension is over, unfortunately. Also in the Arctic, I don't believe that we are heading into conflict, but I do believe that we need to secure a stronger presence in the Arctic from NATO, from Denmark, also in terms of monitoring the area. So I will support and facilitate all that I can in that direction. Then there's a foreign policy that Denmark is still responsible for. I think it is time for more competence and more delegated powers to the Greenlandic government in that respect. Of course, regarding Arctic, because we are the part of the kingdom living and breathing in the Arctic. We are the Arctic part of the kingdom. And we are fully capable of having our own dialogues and discussions and venturing into different bilateral, multilateral agreements. That's not the same as saying we should not confer or have discussions with the Danish government, but we are fully capable of getting more competence in that area. Also, I think we need to have much more involvement in the foreign policy in general, because what happens in Iran, what happens in Ukraine, what happens in Cuba will also affect Greenland. We are not in a position where we can say we are only affected by matters in the Arctic. We are affected by everything the Kingdom of Denmark does on the foreign policy level. So of course we should be not only informed but also involved in major decisions. So I think I will also work hard to try to get more understanding of that point of view. Finally, there's the justice area that is still a Danish competence area. We have a rule of law in Greenland. Of course, we have all the framework, it's all there. But we also have due process, but we need to recognize to some extent that what happens in Greenland is not, we might have the framework, but in reality, in the practice of the law, there is still problems. For instance, language barriers, where a lot of the people in the system, they speak Danish, but the population, they speak Greenlandic. So there can be difficulties in your court case, in your case, if it's managed on two languages, you don't speak the power language. There's also the matter of geography. We have many settlements without police presence, and we have discussions with Denmark whether or not that is fair or not. I think it's a problem. If you want to have safety and security for your people, they need to come in contact with local police without a delay, which could be caused by weather and distance. So that is some minor, I would say not minor, but some effects of the current situation I would like to dive into as well. And finally, of course, the matter of equality is quite close to my heart. I think we have a dire need to look to the past and see what happened. We have, of course, the anti-conception IUD scandal that is in process, but we also have the children that was adopted to Danish parents without consent from their biological parents. We have the segment of Greenlanders born from a Danish father that did not obtain the same rights to his inheritance and such. And I think those matters should be compensated, fully uncovered and dealt with and quite quickly if you want to move forward within the kingdom. So that was about just a few words about what I think I will focus my energy on. Forgive me, it is my, I think, I haven't finalized my first week in Denmark, so I'm quite new girl in town. There's still a lot to learn. I am beginning to have dialogue with political counterparts, the parties in the Folketing. I don't discriminate against anyone. I want to talk to everybody. I want to have a good working relationship with every party in the Folketing, regardless of their standing in terms of the Greenlandic rights and to sovereignty. I have been invited to negotiations. If you look at the math of the current situation, of course they don't need the North Atlantic mandates. But I do believe very strongly that any government in Greenland should, of course, include the North Atlantic mandates in their dialogue, especially now. You can see that it is difficult for me to see a reality where Danish government do not have a good working relationship with the North Atlantic, especially the Greenlandic mandates, because of the geopolitical situation. So even though we don't have leverage in terms of numbers, I think we are of importance for this ongoing dialogue. We came, of course, with some demands and wishes for the future Danish government. It is still an ongoing process, but some of them are not very secretive. We have all the time said we want more governance and more competence within the foreign policy area. We want revisions of the Self-Government Act. We have specifics as well concerning the beredskab, contingency and defense areas. We have issues about Greenlandic patients' access to Danish hospitals and so on. So we have a variety of wishes and demands that go from more, we can say, specific issues to the greater ones concerning the entire framework of the kingdom. And which ones will land, we will see. We are in this dialogue as we speak. I think maybe this past 15 months have really maybe shown the Danish population in general and the politicians especially why it is important to include and listen to the North Atlantic mandates and Greenland and the Faroe Islands and their governments as well. I think it has been manifested quite clearly that if you want a kingdom, it is a kingdom consisting of 3 different countries with 3 different voices, 3 different ambitions and goals and politics. So yes, I think there is a wider understanding now about our differences, our common goals, and the problems that we need to deal with together. Whether or not it gives any leverage in the current negotiations, I would say only in the way that it's difficult now to do anything without consulting Greenland, of course.
My name is Stine Jacobsen and I'm from Reuters. You said that status quo is not an option for Greenlanders. How are you, when you're talking to Danish lawmakers? I know it's very early days, but how are they sort of seeing this? Do they understand the urgency and some of the issues that needs to be addressed? And maybe also more specifically, how are you hoping to improve ties with Denmark? There's a lot of areas you mentioned where there is certainly a lot of painful history as well. So how are you hoping sort of to work to improve ties in this area? And does it also include, for example, the many Greenlandic people living in Denmark who, I mean, we heard many stories about them not being treated equally, etc.
Well, I am socialistic by nature, so I always believe in dialogue and involvement, and I really think that is the best weapon we've got. The dialogue with each and every party, each and every lawmaker, trying to elaborate on our positions and views. And I think I've already met with quite a few, and I think there's a mutual understanding that we might not see eye to eye on every matter concerning Greenland, but there is absolutely, as I detected, a willingness to understand more, to engage more, and to have the dialogue and figure out what is the common ground and where would we agree to disagree. And I think that is a way forward, really, to try to gain support from the cases that matters to us, but also invite them to understand us more, to invite them to Greenland, to invite them into our ways of thinking. So I have been using a lot of my time these past weeks to engage in dialogue and trying to also ask curiously about their positions, because I need to understand their positions in order to better mine. So I think it's just a lot of dialogue. And of course, when push comes to shove, I think many of the parties do understand the necessity to look to the past. Whether or not they are ready to look to the future and real alterations in the near future, they might not be there yet in understanding the urgency. But I must also say, in Greenland, things are moving fast as well. And if you want to maintain a kingdom of Denmark with 3 countries, you need to understand the nuances in Greenland as well, and the population and their feelings and wishes for the future, and you need to address it and work with us. If not, I think there will be a slow polarization over the next decades. Yeah, I cannot speak to the Greenlandic government, of course, because they are another group of people than I am, but I can easily answer your questions, but as a parliamentarian. I don't think the current case court had any effects on foreign investments. If you look at the numbers, they have only gone up when it comes to foreign investments into the Greenlandic mineral sector, even though this conflict has been going on. The mining companies understand that this conflict has to do with uranium as a commodity and not with mineral extraction as such, that this is a specific case. So if you look at the numbers, if you look at the interest towards Greenland, it is unaffected by this current ongoing conflict with Greenland Minerals and their mother company, Indiavision. So I think that is not a concern, and we are quite serious about extracting minerals. There is in Greenland a very pro-mining attitude. They always ask two questions, the locals. It is the environment taken care of, and is there a job? Do we benefit? And if the companies can answer satisfactorily to those two questions, they get support from the local communities, and we see that. So there's a lot of excitement around the different projects that is right now ongoing in Greenland. It is very much a marathon, not a sprint, to engage in the mineral sector, as you are well aware of, coming from Australia. We are a greenfield country. It will take many years. My best estimate is that we will see real effects on our economy 10 to 15 years from now. And that is because everything is on track. So that is the quick part. So it takes a lot of time. And until then, you will see the effects locally on the economy more than on a national level. So the last one, I'm no longer minister for that area. You must ask a new one, which is multiborbide. About the court case, what I've heard is they expect later this year that the first hearings will be held. But of course, that's up to the courts, and we are still exchanging papers. So, but my best guess is maybe October, November. Yeah, that is really two answers to your questions. If I take the last one first, when it comes to the ongoing dialogue with the US, I very much believe that is trilateral discussions. It is not only for Greenland to have that discussion. It is not only Greenland that is under threat, it is also Denmark. So for me, it is very natural that everything we do in that direction is very close aligned within the kingdom. So I find it very natural that it is both Denmark, Greenland, and the US that meets. So I don't see any, I don't believe that should be changed in any way or form, and I have not heard that from my government as well. I think we are all very much in agreement on that. Because our main argument is we don't want to leave the Kingdom of Denmark. So of course this we need to coordinate with the kingdom, within the Kingdom of Denmark. But to answer your other question, I might not have this meeting or that meeting specifics, but if you look at the progression, 10 years ago it was unheard of that we were even at the table. We had a former premier, Alaka Hamann, who had a boycott of the Arctic Council because she was only allowed to sit on the back seat and not allowed a seat at the table. So we have slowly progressed over the years. Now it's natural that we sit there. But it has taken a lot of debate, a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussions behind closed doors to get to these advanced competence all the time. Even for small, just a seat at the table has been a struggle. So I think that is what we want to continue and get more recognition for for the competence already built in Greenland. The reality that today we already handle a lot of things ourselves, and we do it without any concerns to the Danish Foreign Ministry. We do it. So I think we just need to. We want support and understanding that we continue down that track. For instance, the name of the Arctic ambassador, as you all maybe witnessed, it took a long time just to get that name. But that discussion was not just a year. It had been going on for many, many years. So each little step forward on the foreign policy scene really had required a lot of discussions and dialogue behind the scenes. We have no intentions of, what do you call in Danish, that you show all your disagreements in the open. We are fine by taking these discussions behind closed doors, but we want to see progression all the time in the direction of gaining more and more autonomy on the foreign policy scene, where it only regards Greenland. Of course, we are, as I mentioned, fully aligned that in any matters that also involve Denmark, of course we do this together. But where the issue on the table is only Greenland, we think it's only natural that we lead the process, that we are the ones in charge, and that we lead a lot of the negotiations ourselves. March, I was no longer a member of the Greenlandic government, so I cannot speak to what happened since. So I think what I know officially is also what I can tell you, and you can already read in the papers. So the dialogue is ongoing, as I understand, and I think they're ongoing on in a good atmosphere, so we're hoping for that. In regard to the ongoing Danish negotiations on the future government, I think my message yesterday to Mette Frederiksen was that we understand that it's a difficult situation with the numbers she's working with, we get that. But I also needed to convey the message that I hope all parties included understand the urgency for a Danish government. That for us, we are one social post away from having a crisis at our hands again, and we need to be prepared for this, and we need to have that discussion with Danish government that is not only functioning, but is permanent. So for us, of course, we want to push for a quick decision, but we also understand and can read the layout of these numbers and understand that it's probably not done tomorrow. But we hope nobody drags on just for the fun of it, but understand that this is serious for Greenland. Even the last 15 months said the US, under the current and existing 1951 agreement, have quite wide access to Greenland in terms of establishing more presence there. And we have not disputed that in any way or form. We accept that as the terms of the current agreement. So of course, if the US wants to establish more military presence once again, in my lifetime, I grew up when there were more bases in Greenland. So for us, it's not something that foreign. It's not that many years ago that was the case as well. So as long for Greenland, of course, we want to adhere to the treaties that is already in place. We have no objections to try to venture into negotiations if you want to renew them. But as of now, under the current treaty, there is absolutely possibility of establishing more bases. What we are saying is we really want engagement with the local communities and with our local business communities and with our government. So we want to be involved when these decisions are made, but we recognize the right to establish these bases. I applaud that as well. We think it's a good solution. We have recognized that Mark Rutte has said that he's looking into a more permanent presence in the high north. That could be Greenland, that could be Canada, that could be other countries in the Nordic countries. So we have no objections to that. We find that as fine. Yeah. During the Constitution, in 1953, Greenland was awarded 2 seats in the Danish parliament. At that time, we did not have our own parliament, we did not have our own government. Time has gone by, and now we have a fully functioning democracy with our own parliament and our own government. So this idea that you send 2 parliamentarians to Denmark, I think, if you look at the framework of things, it's a bit odd, because for many Danes, the Greenlandic parliamentarians in the Danish Folketing, in practicality, tends to represent Greenland. But of course we represent parties from Greenland. So for me it would be only natural, and I also speak as a former minister and a former Greenlandic parliamentarian, it would be so much easier if the dialogue was government to government, parliament to parliament, like we do in the Nordic Council and other places. For me that is the most logic way to go around things, and also the way we do things on a day-to-day basis. But then we also have these 2 seats in the parliament in Denmark. Of course I want to fill it as good as I can. I recognize that for many parties and for many organizations, I will be one of the faces of Greenland in Denmark, but I also want to underscore the point, really, that is the Greenlandic government and the Greenlandic parliament. They are the ones deciding the future of Greenland. So this role has changed over the time. And so if that makes sense, I think my role is, of course, to represent my party in everyday practicality. I will also end up oftentimes representing Greenland, but I kind of object to that because I think we need a change of the constitution. And to answer the other part about my partner, Rasok Høydam, yes, Naaja and Inuit Ataqatigiit, our two parties, do have many of the same goals. We have also been in a coalition together, but we do find that we work in different ways, and we also have altering points of view on some things. So of course we represent different parties, but I will insist that he also represents Greenland. And there has been a tendency, and now I speak maybe more to culture and self-understanding in Denmark, that you have the good Greenlanders and the bad ones. And the good ones you can talk to, and the bad ones wants to depart from the kingdom. And I don't buy into that. I think he represents our democracy and some points of view that are existing in the Greenlandic political reality, and we should take that serious as well. So I do confer a lot with him. I recognize his views and his way of working, and really I have to go back 300 years. Greenland has been changing for many years. We have, since 1721 when we were colonized, we have been working towards more self-determination every year, and we have gained it on many occasions. So the parliament and the government you see today is the manifestations of a lot of hard work, a lot of dialogue within the kingdom. So I see that, of course, developing as well in the future. Right now there is no majority in Greenland that wants independence, but they want more determination, self-determination, more competence, more recognition. And I think that's what we're working for right now. In the future, who knows? That is really up to future Greenlanders to take a vote on. Will it be in my lifetime? I don't know. But right now I think we are still working on stabilizing our economy in Greenland, and our focus on many things more than independence. But of course it's a deep felt goal for many Greenlanders. That's not the same as saying it's going to happen within a few years. I doubt that. But you shouldn't understand that as there's not an appetite for more self-determination, because there absolutely is. So for us it's a very nuanced picture. When you read it in the media, it's often a yes or no to independence, but for Greenland it's much more nuanced than that. Around the kitchen table in Greenland we discuss education, we discuss economy, inflation, we discuss relations with the European Union.